I think for me, what it really is coming down to, and I think for a lot of us, is it's time for us to create new models. And I think the challenge is these models don't exist
Yeah.
necessarily in our conscious world. I think we'll find the models in nature, right? She shows us how to do things. But if we're looking to, corporate America or the corporate world to show us how to do it, I think that number is our first mistake. I think that's our first mistake. And I think it makes sense that we're just going to try to recreate what we already know, but put a new label or a new word on it. And I understand the intention, and I think it's an altruistic one to say, I want to create a healing center. And honestly, that was my initial vision. But it's moved beyond that because I was like, well, then what am I going to do when nobody's there? Like, what do you do when you don't have a client? It's not about just sitting in this space and you're only activated when someone else comes in and needs something from you. No, it's about creating a model for life that is sustainable, that gives people an opportunity to be a part of creating what they need for themselves, as opposed to creating this empty model where we're waiting on everybody else to come and fill it up. Because what good is a business if you don't have customers? And I think that's where many of us are disconnecting is like, but I have a website and I have a space and I have a thing. Okay, but so does McDonald's. Like, I don't, you know what I mean? And I'm not criticizing anyone. I think this is just coming from my own sense of having reached the end of that path and going, oh, it wasn't that I was doing it wrong. I was just on a path that wasn't built to satisfy or fulfill.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all. So I think to realize, oh, okay, so the deck was stacked against me. Now, what do I do with that information? Oh, please, am I going to try to destroy that? No, they're already destroying themselves. They don't need me. Again, what my guides have told me from the beginning, your job is not to put out the fire. Your job is to build the new thing so when the fire is out, people have somewhere to go.
Hi, everyone. It's Candace Craw-Goldman from quantumhealers.com. And today I'm speaking with Amar. Haven't talked to him for a while. Get ready for a lively conversation.
Very good.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to imagine when it was the last time I directly talked to you.
I think it was you were, oh God, the last time you did a video summit. I think it's like a year and a half or 2 years ago.
At least, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
because yeah, I've had to. They became kind of a little much
Yeah.
um, on top of everything else going on here,
Yeah.
and I I've been enjoying listening to you so much because
Hmm.
I've been saying, yes, I feel that way. What about this? I mean, just a lot of connection points like that. And even you mentioning the last time we did something, and then when you've referenced recently feeling the need to produce or create or come up with something of value just to connect and all of that. And I really had to laugh because part of me was like, that's exactly the way I feel. How come some of my other 3D team doesn't really see that? And yet at the same time, one of the reasons I wanted to connect with you today was, and it was right after the eclipse. I just feel like there's something the larger spiritual community is not doing.
Hmm.
It's just not doing it. And even some of, and I don't know that I have an answer. I don't even know that I have an idea, but I knew that talking to you or even listening to you would help inspire some ways to think about it. And something you said today uh, inspired me when you were talking about gaslighting your own self.
Mhm.
I
One of my
think,
favorite hobbies.
yeah, I think much of the spiritual community, as a group, as a singular essence, is gaslighting itself.
Hmm. Yeah.
And it's not a completely new idea, it's maybe newly phrased,
Right.
but what my response has been up until the eclipse was I'm used to sort of being an early adopter,
Hmm.
early to uh, a different way of looking at things. I mean, our whole community right now is like I call it a guru-free community. Our community doesn't revolve around me, doesn't revolve around my teachings. Yes, I created it, but I want to learn horizontally from all the people in there.
Mm.
And because I think of it as a newer, different way than the sort of top-down authority shit, which
Yeah.
is also so much in my mind. And when I caught, I don't know, it was probably your third or fourth day after the eclipse video that just popped up, you were talking a little bit about, I think you said, stake your flag.
Yeah.
You know,
So what are you staking your claim
yeah,
to
yeah,
on? Yeah.
right. And rather than that floating around and regurgitate stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like I've been patient, and now part of me is like, you know what? I want to really connect with people like you who are speaking all around the things that are in me.
Mm.
And I want to imagine, even if we don't ever do anything about it, I want to start to imagine the new way
Yeah.
together, right? And one of the new ways for me anyway, but I don't have this figured out. One of the new ways I've felt so strongly about, which is why I started all of this so long ago, was it's not around one teacher, one method, one
Right.
concept, one thing that makes me nuts. And yet at the same time, even what we just started out talking about, or I'm doing all the talking here, I'm going to shut up in a second, but I know you just finished talking, so maybe you need a break. I don't want to do it the old way either, of let's pick a topic and everyone come and talk about it. I'm also that does the constricting thing. It's like, no, I don't know that I want to do that.
Yeah.
I don't know what I want to do. I know I want to do this right here, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're moving again. Oh my God.
It's it's an interesting time. And I was talking with a friend recently, and we've been friends for, gosh, like over 30 years now. I mean, he's family. And he also has a practice. He's a practitioner. He too is going through, I think, what so many across the board practitioners are going through. And I think even new practitioners who maybe don't even have a model yet we're all kind of asking the same question, like, what's next? What's now? How do we do it? And he was saying, and he and I communicate daily, multiple times a day, except for since the eclipse, we have been on total radio silence with each other. And at this point, there's this telepathic thing where we understand when we don't need to talk and we know why we don't need to talk. But we connected yesterday briefly, and I said, I've been thinking about you. You've been on my heart. I want you to know I've been thinking about you. I haven't been communicative because I don't know what to say. And he was like, oh my God. He was like, I'm in the exact same boat. He's like, please do not ever for a second question if, no worries. He said, there have been times when I've started to record you a voice note, because that's how we communicate, do voice memos. He said, and then like halfway through, he's like, I'm realizing that this is already irrelevant. He was like, so I just don't send it. And I was like, yeah, I'm in the same place. I said, I feel like it's changing so quickly that anything that I say, this is a definitive thing, by the time it's out of my mouth, it would be antiquated. So that's why I'm loving this, what the WTF series is. I don't have to bring anything. I just show up.
Yeah.
And I don't, what I'm doing is just a lot of watching right now. What I'm also doing is not really fucking caring what anyone else is up to.
Right.
Like, I've unfollowed and muted pretty much everybody, even that I'm connected to personally, not because I don't care what they're saying, but because I can't hear anybody else's interpretation, save for a very small, like maybe 3 other individuals that I will listen to and take, be curious about their take.
Mm-hmm.
But I know I'm not an expert. I don't want to be. I know I'm not a business person. I don't want to be. I'm not even an entrepreneur. I don't see myself in any way, shape, or form aspiring to recreate some matrix model and try to make it work for me, because it doesn't. Listen, if it would have worked for me by now, it would have worked for me by now. So I'm just in a place of observing and following my own excitement. And, I had last August, it's interesting because, last August was when I think I first started to approach this whole subject of like, what the hell am I doing? What are we doing collectively as healers, leaders, teachers, etc. And that's when I sent out that first video in August of like, I don't know what to do, and then I created the spiritual entrepreneur circle out of that. That was out of the gate like gangbusters. And like those first 2 weeks were so exciting and so wonderful. But once again, I found myself elevated to the position of leader, and I didn't want to be a leader. I have no problem with being a leader in the right circumstance and context, but it's just by default. If I find myself in a group, I will just be elected the leader. It just happens that way. And I don't want that. That's not what I wanted. What I wanted was a community, grassroots, let's do it together. Everyone had a lot of great ideas. There was a lot of passion. There was a lot of excitement. And then I was continuing to show up. Hey, let's stoke the fires. Fucking crickets. In a matter of like less than a month, it went from almost 100 people who were really interested and really committed and showing up with all this ideas to the last meeting we had when 2 people showed up. And that's fine. Like I'm not angry about it. Like I get emphatic because it's more the like, it kind of opens up that question of like, what the WTF again? But I let it go. I was like, fine, that's fine. Same thing, my online community, the temple. I did it for a year and a half. I wanted this community thing. I wanted everyone to contribute. Everyone puts in. We all have a voice. We all have a say. Nope. Same thing. I'm the only one showing up. I'm the only one creating events. I'm the only one. So, okay, fine. That's cool. Then we'll let that go. So I understand that a lot of people are asking these questions, but nobody seems to fucking want to invest themselves. Nobody seems to want to commit, and that's cool too. So I'm just not
Agreed.
trying. I'm just here.
Agreed. Andrew, in school, when you had to do the group project, who were you in the group project? Probably the same like me, right? Okay, let's get it done. And you just get in there and all that. And then there'd be like the 3 people who'd be like, sucker, you just do it all. And we'll just sit over here and reap the benefits.
Oh, well, I never did that. I never did that. I've never done other people's work for them. I think that's part of why I've struggled to find success in this practice is people want it done for them. They don't want to have to find their own answers. They don't want to have to go on an internal journey. They just want, and I get it. That was me at the beginning. Spirit, just tell me what to do and I'll do it. Tell me where to go and I'll go. Tell me what to see and I'll look at it, right? That's not how it works. It's the same thing. So I understand, like, I am not, like, there's no bitterness. There's no resentment.
Sure. Oh, I
There
get
really
it.
aren't even any questions anymore. Like, I'm just here and I'm showing up. And when people like you, who I'm connected to through mutual practices, or some people who started out as clients but now have their own practices and we're peer, like I've had a lot of these conversations, these one-on-one, like, hey, let's do something. What are we doing? What are the possibilities? What are the options? I am down for it all. And I personally am at this point, like I was online this morning looking at Esalen and Omega Institute for like summer jobs. Maybe I'll just go work for someone else for a year or a season or something. I am not precious about it needing to be my thing. I don't need to be in charge of it.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll see where it goes. It's not that I don't know, it's that what I know now consciously isn't enough for me to make a choice beyond I'm going to continue to follow what's exciting and show up. And that's what I can commit to right now.
You just are mirroring me in so many ways. Even for the eclipse, initially I had absolutely nothing planned in my community. And then I had a few people reach out and go, hey, we did something in 2017. It was really great. Can we do it again? And, sure, I'll set something up. And then I felt exactly like this. I just don't really have the desire or drive right now to lead something else, even a couple-hour thing. And I reached out to a colleague. She was more than happy. I said, great. I want to show up and participate. I just don't want to be the leader. I don't want to do the thing. I just want to enjoy the connection. And she was like, that's great. I'd be happy to do that. And so we all just sort of decided we were going to be, most of us, inside during the eclipse. You probably heard there's a lot of inside, outside, good, bad. There's a lot of talk like that. And it was like, well, we're just gonna be together. So basically we're gonna be inside. My husband said, well, you could be outside. I'm like, this is Kansas. Come on. Just the wind is probably gonna make that impossible. So I decided to be inside, and like a couple hours before that, I got a call, and I had to leave. My dad was quite ill, and I got back to the house, and because of what was going on, I had to call the doctor, and the visiting nurse said, I'll do that for you. And once again, I'm like, great, just get him in, because it was something else that somebody was offering to do for me. And right now, I'm taking care of so much. Anytime anybody does something like that, I pretty much am surrendering. Something else I want to talk with you about. And she made an appointment. And, for us, it was like 10 after 2 was the eclipse over where we were. And I guess 80 to 85% or something. So, not underneath for total, but
A lot.
noticeable.
Yeah.
Yeah, noticeable. And I'd planned on being inside, and she got back to me right away and said, your appointment with your dad's at 2:30, which made it mean that like I couldn't even stay for the whole event, but the whole thing was fantastic. It was fantastic because I felt like there's no way I could have planned to have actually been walking my dad in his walker outside, putting him in the car during the peak moment of the eclipse where we were, when I was trying to figure out logically with my head if I should be in or out, and I was leaning towards in. And then it was such a gift because Spirit was like, oh yeah, is that what you had planned? Well, here, all these things had to line up just perfectly for me to be outside. And it was partly cloudy. And sure enough, no clouds were in the sky when it was right there. It was very visible. And I just found that sort of amazing. And I like this idea of surrendering. Even surrender to surrender. It's a fantastic quote.
Yeah. And I think it's, for me, I was thinking about this yesterday. There's the slow way to learn, which is through experience and living it. And then there's that quantum way of learning where the aha moment and every part of your system is suddenly open and pointing in that singular direction so you get it. And I've had both experiences through my life, and more it's the quantum experiences that show me and teach me. But I've also been having a lot of those learned lived experiences through, the expression of time, of linear time. I was thinking about that. I was like, what's different this time? Because I've been at the edge, this past 4.5, it'll be 5 years in August since I moved to Colorado, which astounds me because it feels like just 6 months in many ways. But I'm very aware of the fact that I have come to the cliff's edge at least 3 times in this past 5 years, about 4.5 year cycle. Oh, these fungus gnats are driving me crazy. And I just have been asking myself, like, yesterday I was like, okay, but Amar, like, what's different this time? Because I can feel that something's different. I can feel that I have surrendered. I can feel that there is a new angle. I can feel I am pointed in a new direction that I have never been pointed in before.
Yeah.
And I've been really like absorbing and embodying Bashar's challenge, teachings. And the one that he was talking about recently was, when you find yourself in the same position over and over and over, and you're still you have not changed. That's that simple. You just haven't changed, because until you make a different choice for the same, the same situation, you just haven't changed. And I was like, okay, that's a tough pill to swallow, but it's true. There have been increments of change. I've changed in ways, but it's been mostly just rearranging the furniture around the same fucking room. Now something has changed. Like, I know it's different. I can feel it. It's mostly felt in the absence of things. I don't care where I go from here, honestly, because I put my hands in myself. at that level to say, I know you've got me. I feel it. There is this experience I've been having in the mornings where normally, the first thing I consciously say out of my mouth every single day is thank you. And then it's usually a process of just kind of sitting and observing, like, what's here, just for a couple seconds, just to kind of get the lay of the land. 99% of the time, it would always be this anxious thought. Sometimes it was small, sometimes it was huge, but it was some flavor of anxiety. The past few weeks, that is different. The experience I have now when I wake up and I say thank you is of me falling into something bigger than I am, of me being a part of something that is lovingly and compassionately and intently wanting me to know that I am held and experiencing that. So I am just not worried. I'm not concerned. Yes, there's moments of, oh my God, okay, all good. It's all good. I'm not concerned. I'm not concerned. I know it's going to work out. Okay, sure, there may be some big breath moments. There may be a little bit of white knuckling, but I'm not going to subsist on a steady diet of fear and anxiety until the answer of what's next arrives. That's going to come one way or the other. I've also been leaning into human design and understanding as manifesting generator that my job is not to find opportunity. My job is to call opportunity to me and then respond. That's how it works. And for a manifesting generator, it is death to go out and drum up business, find some clients, lead sourcing. Oh, fuck that. Oh, God, gross. Gross.
Yeah, that's the hating being a salesperson. And aren't a lot of us in this realm this way. So much so that they're like, please just let me do everything for absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Which is also horrible.
Yeah. So I don't know what's next. I have visions, it's like there is that version of what would I do if I suddenly had, endless financial resources and all of that. I know exactly where I would go and what I would do. And I'm already beginning to create that experience for myself because I know how I would live in that vision. And so I can begin to live that way now to the best of my ability. And when I project myself into that reality, there is no anxiety, there is no stress, there is no lack of clarity, there is no freaking out about what next. It's just like a pollinator. You move from one project, one love, one passion to the next, like gathering pollen from flower to flower, and that's the life. So I know it's possible. And I also really believe that I would not have been given this desire and would not have been nurturing it for the past 12 years were it not in some way what I'm moving towards. But other than that, I don't know. And I'm just no longer interested in being the cheerleader. I'm no longer interested in being the leader. I have no problem with being a leader. And when people are ready to be led by me, I know they will arrive. But I am done building spaces.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't work. Not right now, anyway.
Yeah. This is kind of an old subject, but it brings this part up because I think it's something we're working out as humans. I mean, all the way back when I was first starting this, way back 2008, 9, there would be people come. This was after I met Dolores and started working as she did, doing quantum healing regression work. And so many people would sit in front of me and they would tell me about their dream or their vision or something, a message that they've gotten. And so many of them would talk about their healing center. I want to build this healing center. And I started hearing it and hearing it and hearing it. And some of these people, whether it was before and then they showed up or after they showed up and left or along the way, actually physically built these healing centers, and almost every single one of them failed miserably. Yeah. And not because of not trying, not because of that at all. And I came to understand or believe, at least for right now, I think they didn't need to be physically created. This was this was an energetic thing that people are longing for.
Yeah.
And the creators were trying to create it for everyone, but we were just sort of mucking around trying to come up with an answer for fulfilling this need that wasn't quite the right way. And maybe that's what's happening right now too, even now, even trying to connect and reconnect with other people such as yourself is like, well, I know I don't want to do it the old way. And I have absolutely no idea what the new way is, but I know that the connections need to stay or need to be nurtured or feeding the fire, right? Just keep the fire fed and then sort of sit back and see what's what.
Yeah.
There's this thing that I'm trying to do a lot more lately, and I did it just a couple 3 days ago, I guess it's been. And I was sitting right here at my desk, and where I am right now is the basement of the house. Dad and caregivers are upstairs. There's some loud ones up there. I'm happy I have them, believe me, but there's a couple of them that are loud, and I was overly sensitive to even what was going on, on another floor. And I often wear earplugs, but sometimes I can't if I'm editing or whatever. And I was just kind of marching through my work, and all of a sudden then I heard, Andrew, the lawn service show up. We have a lawn service. And that was it. It was like I was already like feeling like this, and just the noise of it was like I needed to escape the noise. And I grabbed my purse. I went upstairs. I told my caregiver I was going to stay and work all day. I'm just going to leave for a little bit. And I just got my car and I was going to town. Now, this isn't something I do. Town for me is like 40 minutes from here. And I don't just willy-nilly drive to town. I usually figure out what needs to be done, what needs getting, what errands. I combine them. I mean, I have to. I have too many responsibilities to not be efficient in that way. And I'm driving to town and I'm laughing at myself because I'm like, I know beyond anything in my body, I need to be outside, out of the house and out and away from the farm right now. And I have no idea what I'm doing and no idea where to go. And I was thinking, mulling over the possibilities on the way there. And I finally settled on going to an art museum or art association. One I actually used to teach at many years ago. It's in a new building, but it's the same group. And I had just parked, not even knowing if there was a new show, nothing. It was like, well, I'll start there. And I parked and I got a message, and it was from my neighbor here, not far from the farm, just 1 minute from my house. She was like, I have a mama pig in labor. I don't have a truck or trailer. Can you help me? And it was like, oh. And I had a whole adventure, which is still unfolding right now because of all of the things that happened. But the whole way back, I'm like, that's what it was. That's what it was. I knew already. And the energy of me doing this thing, it was already building to play out for me to fulfill this role in this adventure, which ended up to be a pretty significant one in a number of ways. And I was just making sure I was following it. I went too far past her driveway and with the wrong vehicle. But I mean, I was following that little thing inside that just is like, you're just not supposed to be here right now.
Yeah.
Like you're just supposed to, something else is supposed to be happening here. And rather than pushing down some of these things, logically pushing away some of these impulses, I'm not doing that anymore. And so one of the impulses was, I just need to talk to Andrew.
Yeah.
Excuse me, Amar. I'm getting used to it. I think you fully stepped into Amar after we've actually spoken lately. And I love that even today you said Big Andrew and in your connections of daily connections with the live audience on YouTube, which I just love. And if any of you all haven't joined Andrew there, you really ought to. He's got a few days left, about half a month left.
Couple weeks. Yeah. I don't, I think part of it may be that we're just trying to use old models. You're talking about the healing center. I think part of it is we've been treating it like with the same Western allopathic model that you come in, have an appointment, and then you go. No, I think it's about being versus doing. And I think we just bought the the model that we were sold. Of course, we're just going to try to do what we've already been doing, or, working for other people or watching the big business do their thing. And so I think that's part of it, is because, what I'm finding more and more is it's not about a singular moment. It's not about a 1 hour appointment or a 2 hour event or even a half-hour live stream. It's about, how are you living? Like, how do you be in your life? And I think that's the thing that I have been butting up against, is I don't want to have like, oh, I'm this version of self when I'm, working with a client, and then I'm this version of self on my day off. No, it's about a way of life. It's about a standard of living that, where we collectively begin to say, no, we're not going to do it like that anymore. It's ridiculous. It should be illegal that arbitrarily counties can just raise property taxes on people who've been living in homes for at least a decade already. Like, it does not make sense. That's not the way it works. You don't get to say, oh, it costs you $5, and then I give you $5 and go, oh, but that was just the cost of the thing. Now I need $20 you can actually have, it doesn't. So I digress. I think for me, what it really is coming down to, and I think for a lot of us, is it's time for us to create new models. And I think the challenge is these models don't exist necessarily in our conscious world. I think we'll find the models in nature, right? She shows us how to do things. But if we're looking to, corporate America or the corporate world to show us how to do it, I think that is our first mistake. I think that's our first mistake. And I think it makes sense that we're just going to try to recreate what we already know, but put a new label or a new word on it. And I understand the intention, and I think it's an altruistic one to say, I want to create a healing center. And honestly, that was my initial vision, but it's moved beyond that, because I was like, well, then what am I going to do when nobody's there? Like, what do you do when you don't have a client? It's not about just sitting in this space and you're only activated when someone else comes in and needs something from you. No, it's about creating a model for life that is sustainable, that gives people an opportunity to be a part of creating what they need for themselves, as opposed to creating this empty model where we're waiting on everybody else to come and fill it up. Because what good is a business if you don't have customers? And I think that's where many of us are disconnecting, is like, but I have a website and I have a space and I have a thing. Okay, but so does McDonald's. Like, I don't, you know what I mean? And I'm not criticizing anyone. I think this is just coming from my own sense of having reached the end of that path and going, oh, it wasn't that I was doing it wrong. I was just on a path that wasn't built to satisfy or fulfill.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all. So I think to realize, oh, okay, so the deck was stacked against me. Now, what do I do with that information? Oh, please, am I going to try to destroy that? No, they're already destroying themselves. They don't need me. Again, what my guides have told me from the beginning, your job is not to put out the fire. Your job is to build the new thing, so when the fire is out, people have somewhere to go.
Yeah.
And I have been doing the same thing that I think we've all been doing, which is just taking corporate model 101 and trying to make it work for me. But then I realized, but I didn't come here to be a part of a broken system.
It's hard, isn't it? Because just even what we're doing right now, we're on these machines, that's corporate. We're on internet, that's run by the corporate. It's, it's all of our connection points are co-opted and run by it's like, and then you're like, well, you're just going to throw it all the way. What? Go outside and do smoke signals?
Right.
I mean, I don't know.
And I think that's another thing, because I found this within myself. There's this vision of like, okay, if I don't go down this technological sort of transhumanism kind of thing, then is the only other choice to live in a yurt with no power and no running water? No, I believe that there is a middle path. And I think that's what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be taking the best that technology can offer, the best that humans can do in that vein of technology, and making things more efficient and more affordable and more accessible, and democratizing the internet and all of that. And how we, in the beginning, that's what it was. Suddenly, I don't need a publishing contract to be a writer. And I love that.
Yeah.
I love that I didn't need a contract to publish my first book. I did it on my own. So that I love. And I also don't think that it's realistic to say, well, we're going to live in caves with no water and no heat. No, there's a middle ground between, Android soulless AI world and living in the dirt with no running water and no electricity world. There's a middle ground where the best of what is, in terms of these natural organic laws and geometries, where that supports an advanced, forward thinking, forward moving organization, civilization, group of people. I think it's possible. And I think the trick is we're going to have to make it for ourselves. I don't think anybody has this model. So I think if we're sitting around, and I have been doing that, I've been sitting around, wait, okay, where is it? Where's the thing? Where's the person? Where's the thing? I'm ready. Let's go. But that's just an old model. That doesn't work. So I think for me, it's just what right now feels interesting and exciting.
Yep.
That's it. And I'm no longer interested or excited by talking about my problems. I'm no longer interested or excited by creating things that no one shows up for. And that's fine. To me, like I was saying today, like surrender to the fact that surrender is an invitation to move on. That something in your life calling you to surrender is actually spirit saying, I'm giving you permission to walk away from this. I am signing your permission slip to say, Mom said I could go. Right? So why do we stick around? I'm still answering that question for myself, but I can begin by saying, I know that doesn't work, and I'm not going to try to make it work anymore. I know that old idea was dead when it arrived, and it's just been reanimated and resuscitated by my life force energy. And now that I've been divested from it, and I'm just looking at it and going, oh, that really is just a dead thing. The only reason it was viable is because it was my Frankenstein monster, but I'm not using my life force to try to sustain dead things anymore. So, okay, well, I'll just show up on YouTube every day at 10 a.m. and open my mouth and do my thing and say yes to opportunities like this, and we'll see what happens.
I don't know exactly how this fits, but it is a story of surrender. I had a dream years ago. My husband and I have been married for more than 40 years. And even when I had my session with Dolores all those years ago, in that session, my higher self said, yeah, you and your husband, you're going to be working together. And it was, my conscious mind or even later listening. It's like, he is the epitome of this left brain, straight jacket, rule following, uptight, sorry, honey, guy. And I'm the artist and the loudmouth and the healer and the dreamer and all of that. And, my higher self said, no, you two together, it's going to work. It's not going to be for a while, but it's going to work. And then after Dolores died, that basically started manifesting. And right around that time, I had this dream. And here's the dream. And at first, I didn't even know it was a dream. It didn't become lucid until partway in. And so I went out to the barn, and there was my husband with this horse that I'd never seen before. And the horse was huge. It was like this huge, magnificent black Frisian with a mane and a tail, and it was fiery and it was strong, and it was this huge, huge thing. And he was on this horse, and I'm already going, okay, he's not a horse person. I don't know what's going on here. I don't know why he's on this horse. I was starting to be concerned for his safety. Again, I'm not knowing it's a dream quite yet. And he looked at me, and there's no saddle, and he had on this incredibly complex bridle. Some dressage and some other very specific horse events have these bridles that actually have different sets of reins. I don't know if you know about that, but like people up here, like this set of reins does this, and this set of the whole thing, even that really makes me like, I don't even know how anyone does that. But in this dream, it was that like exponentially, like there were all these reins in his hands, and there were all of these things, and the horse is just going, and he's on there, and he's like, get on. And he's like this with all of the reins, and I'm thinking a few things, which is, I should not be in back. If anybody should be getting on and getting in front, I'm the horse person. But that's a stupid amount of reins, and I don't know what's going on. And he had just this grin on him. He's like, just get on. And so I get on, and again, the power of this thing underneath us was, it was either going to propel us to heights or destroy us. It was just huge. And he was just sitting there all discombobulated, and he was trying to manage the reins, and his fingers were all, and he was leaving the barn, and we're going on our adventure. And I thought, well, I think maybe if I just gently talk to my husband about how to interact with this force of the horse, maybe that would work. And so I just tell him just to kind of relax and let the reins be loose in his hand. And he kind of went like this. Remember, he's in front of me, and he goes like this, like this, he says, and he went like that. And the reins, and then this is where the dream became lucid. The reins went up in the air in slow motion like this, and they just all fell away like that. And as soon as he let go of the reins, now just listen to the symbology of this. As soon as he let go of the reins, we were like this magic machine together. And the stride was like water, and we were together, and we were riding this wave and this power and all of this stuff. And we ended up, just over hill, valley, and dale, and all of that. And we come to this building, and the building is an old brick building. My old studio used to be a building much like this, and it's one of the reasons I was there for a great number of years. I only last year let it go. But we came to this place, the horse just stopped and just patiently just stood there. We got off and opened up the door. And we stepped in, and the place was empty of people and empty of things, except in all of that space, and it was fairly large, were different shapes and sizes and versions and constructions of bird cages. Each one had a bird in it. And silently, without saying a word, we just went to each and every cage and opened the door. And all the birds ended up finding how to get out, and then flew out the door that we came in. So that's my surrender story. And I try to remember that in all of the things that come before me, holding on too tight, trying to control.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, it's the accepting, one of the words that I've been throwing around a lot over the past 10 years is unprecedented. And we are in an unprecedented time in our history collectively as humans and this planet. And I have come to realize over the past 3 or 4 days through my own personal experiences what unprecedented feels like. And it's kind of scary.
Yes.
Especially to the mind, especially to the limited self, especially to the self that models itself after what everyone else is doing.
Yeah.
So I think it's time to start modeling ourselves after systems and states of being. And I mean natural systems like nature. Like if you want an answer, just go sit in the woods and watch how nature does it. I think that's where our answers are. But for me, tapping into what unprecedented means, that's my guiding principle these days. And to say, if I've already tried it within the context of my practice, I'm not going to try it again. I'm just not. And not to say that it won't happen again or that I'm, giving up. It's just the ways and the methods and the approach and the belief systems that I'm taking to my work and my practice. That is what has got to change. And so I think this unprecedented piece has us all a bit stymied for the moment. And I feel it's like everyone's kind of watching, waiting for something to break so that we just see a little crack where we can make our way through. I'm of the mind in those moments of, fuck that, I'm not waiting. I'll just make my own crack. I don't need someone to make an opening for. I'll just make my own. And that's what I've been doing. Where that leads, I don't know. It's of no concern, but I know it's going to be some place that is fulfilling and exciting and lights me up, because showing up to do it is fulfilling and rewarding and lights me up. And so that's what I'm putting my faith in, my feelings. Anything else, even like the alternative news or alternative information or the sites that I used to go to for like what's really happening, I don't even listen to that anymore, because it has somehow gotten itself mired in this someday when the alliance arrives, someday when this thing happens, someday when this person's in office, someday. I'm done kicking the can down the road.
Yeah.
I'm done kicking the can down the road. It's just pointless. And to those people who are watching and waiting and reporting and not letting people get away with one iota of anything, we need them too. Because there are a lot of people who are going to require the information that they are currently accumulating. When they wake up, they're going to need something to look at. I don't need that information anymore. I'm already aware of the part that I am playing. I'm already aware of where I want to go and where I'm being called. And so maybe every once in a while I'll poke in and just see, but to me, it's the equivalent of watching the news over in, New Delhi. What's happening in New Delhi doesn't really matter to me right now, but it might be interesting to see, but I'm not going to spend hours a day watching what's happening in some place. You know what I mean? And that's a wobbly analogy, but I'm just done
Yeah.
with all of that. And I'm leaning into unprecedented.
Yeah, I think a lot of us sort of saw something in that. And it's just like you said, it's kind of gotten co-opted. It's got old and it's feeding on itself and it's not really going anywhere. And that's been really awful to look at too, as this foundation is crumbling. You know what I keep coming back to are some like really significant life events for me. I mean, as in that happened to me when I was 4, that happened to me when I was 10, that happened to me. And what am I talking about? I'm not talking about really interpersonal relationships near as much as like my own internal discoveries or revelations or musings or concepts, or maybe they were tiny downloads, even, as a little kid. And one that keeps coming back to me, and there's many I kind of have them, they're all lined up like, I don't know, and they're so mismatched. So many of them don't have anything to do with any other, but one that is coming back to me more and more lately is, as a kid, the very first bumper stickers weren't a huge thing when I was a kid in the single digits. There weren't that many around.
Yeah.
And I remember the first one I saw, I may have been 8 or 9, maybe something like that. And it was a car. I don't even know who it was, but somebody parked in our driveway for whatever reason. Uh, Maybe somebody visiting my parents or having to do something at my mom and dad's house. And I saw the bumper sticker, question authority.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's as if I'm standing in the same spot in that driveway right now, because I stopped and I had a large enough vocabulary to understand what those two words together meant. But I was so taken with it. What does that mean? And in the ensuing 50 plus years, I think about that moment, and I do know that it has changed. Well, that was that kind of authority. That was that kind of authority. That was that kind of authority. But that insertion, or that my higher self, it was like my higher self took my head and went, look at that, and memorize it.
Yeah.
And keep coming back to it, because it's still that right now too. And I think much of why we find some difficulties in navigating some of the basic stuff of life is we've given over our power to, yes, the experts, and yes, the authorities. This makes me nuts. But also I know that railing about it and screaming about it, and you shouldn't, or don't, or stand up, or whatever, that's tiresome too. It's
Yeah.
become, especially after the last 4 years, as I was watching all of this unfold I remember the day, Amar, that I was on the front porch pacing back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It was the day that the news announced 2 weeks to flatten the curve. And I was basically screaming about it. Absolutely at the top of my lungs to nobody but the birds who were out on the bird feeder up front. And my husband he's like, what is wrong? And he's like, and he's like, why are you so upset? I'm like, because it's not just going to be 2 weeks. Let me tell you what's going to happen. And he's looking at me like I have lost my mind. It's going to be okay. It'll blow over. It won't be that bad. It's only 2 weeks. All of those platitudes were the same ones that my German family stories come down about what happened during the time of Hitler and the Nazis and all of that. They did the same thing. All of the people out there who go, well, I wouldn't have just stood around and let the Holocaust happen. Oh, really? Because this was all sounding really familiar to me. As a matter of fact, there's a phrase that the Germans used back then. Für ein Sicherheit, nur für ein Sicherheit. For your safety, only for your safety. It was the same thing. It was even the same words. And I have to tell you that these last 4 years have been tough. I mean, not only did I like that afternoon go get my dad, because I knew that in his place where he was, he wouldn't be able to, it was his own home, but still the setup, he was going to get swallowed by all of this unless I just had control over all of it. And I didn't even let him think about it. I threw a toothbrush and a couple of T-shirts and a pair of socks in a bag. I said, I'll come get everything later. And I didn't let him go back for 3 years. It's something about that. I don't know. The part that bothers me, I think the most, and this is the part I think that maybe still invested in 3D, but people just want to forget again. They just want to go back. They want to go back to normal. Just like people wanted to go back to normal after World War II. And getting all the way back to normal and giving our authority and our power away to these others is one of the reasons we're still where we are and dealing with what we're dealing with. I don't have any idea of what to do about that other than to continue to just talk about the fact that you need to be in charge of your own everything as much as possible, and giving up your power to others, and even giving up your power to your own idea of what you think you should be is giving up your power too. We do a lot of giving up of our power, and I think that's integral to shifting something.
Yeah, I agree. And until people are tired of the same old story, they'll continue to sign up for the same old story, which is why, I acknowledge the parts of the world that are burning, and I acknowledge that the majority of it has nothing to do with me in terms of what I came here to do in this life. So, yeah, my choices are very small, and my world is very small right now. I'm okay with that. What right now is the most exciting, wonderful, whatever thing I can think of, that's what I'm going to do. Some days it's very, very insignificant. Other days it's something that really kind of moves the mark, but it's just, that's all I'm focused on. And I'm digging my heels in with myself to say, no, I am not going to boot myself out of the driver's seat and try to force it to go in a direction that I think it should. No, I'm not. I'll let it go into the ditch before I will do that. Because if that's where it goes, then that's where I need to be, in the ditch. So I'm just letting myself at that highest level drive the bus right now. And when I have doubts, then I go within and I find that place of connection, and it reminds me that my feelings are valid, my feelings are real, that I can trust them. And I assign positive meaning to everything, and that's it.
Somebody used this word the other day, Andrew and Amar. Oh my gosh, it's going to take a while.
It's okay.
Somebody used this word the other day, and I thought about you. I really did. So we call ourselves Homo sapiens, and I believe that's, Homo sapiens. There was this phrase that this person said. I don't remember who it was. That we're turning into Homo sentience. So rather than the thinking, more the feeling. And
Yeah.
and it really struck me, and I thought, well, that's interesting, because we do want to use the feeling for the guidance system, the internal guidance system it gives us. But then we can also see how the world has gone absolutely mad about feelings, right?
Yeah.
So, and then it's almost hysterical. It's very funny for me to think about that maybe that is part of our evolution, right? You and I are striving, hopefully, to feel those impulses and those higher level guidances that are more pure, without, story and trauma replay and all of those things. And oh, and that old comparing thing. I did that first thing this morning. I texted someone, I'm thinking this, and I'm like, and I know what I'm doing here is comparing myself to XYZ, but I'm going to do it anyway, because just saying it means I know that I'm doing it. And I'm also going to stop doing it after I do this. But it's almost like I had to acknowledge that part of myself.
Yeah.
Uh, but seeing that all play out is on this mad stage, these extremes.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what we're here to do, is to witness all that, I guess.
Yeah. And I don't think, the world at large, I don't think is ready for what I have to offer, because what I have to offer is you chose this.
Yeah.
Consciously or otherwise, you are here because you chose to be.
Yeah.
And that's why we keep going back to the same place that we're at again, is because given the choice, the majority of humans, probably not now, it might be more of a 50-50 split, or maybe 51-49. But I think, especially 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 80 years ago, the majority of humans just wanted to go back to pretending that everything was fine. Because if I refuse to accept, the authority, the systemic authority, the only way to come to that realization is to, in some way, take accountability and responsibility where I have given my power away. And I know very, very few humans who are willingly going to do that. Most of them are going to wait until they have no choice, or they're just going to put it off until another lifetime.
Yeah.
And I understand that. So if I am to be on the world stage, so be it. If I am to go work at Home Depot and no one ever hears from me again, so be it. If it's somewhere in the middle, that's cool too. I have no attachment to how it plays out. And if spirit calls me onto that global stage, then I will gladly step on, but I'm no longer requiring that as a part of my life to be successful or happy or well.
It also sounds exhausting.
Oh my God, it is.
I'm
That's
not
why
sure.
I'm not a businessman. I don't want
I'm
to. I
not sure
never
I
wanted
want
to be.
that. I'm not sure I want that. I've got one or two of my own students or colleagues who, their name recognition has surpassed mine. And I have absolutely no desire to match that
Yeah.
or strive for that at all, really. And I don't think it has to be this thing where it's like this.
That's the old model.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the old world, you did not reach global superstar status without a whole lot of shady motherfucking shit happening to get you there.
Right. And I'm not interested in any of that either.
No. So if I have a cute little house with a half an acre and an amazing garden, I'll be happy. It's fine with me.
What are you growing this year, Andrew?
I don't know, because I don't know where I'm going to be.
That's right. So you might not even stay in Colorado?
No, well, I mean, that was the plan, was to leave Colorado anyway. That's always been the plan. I never intended to be here as long as I have. And I don't want to live anywhere in, this Rocky Mountain corridor, because the weather makes me absolutely bonkers. And I just don't want to live in Colorado. But, what I had shared this morning, my sister and brother-in-law, they're going to be putting their house on the market. So sooner than later, I will be moving. I have no idea where that is. I
I
have
did
places I would
catch
like to go, but we'll see.
I did catch that little part. Like I told you before we clicked record, I caught part of your recordings today, along with all of what's happening in my house right now. But I laughed about it a little bit because I thought, well, the first thing I want to ask you is where all you've been, and and all of that. You're already gearing up to relocate again. But I think the thing I wanted to say too in that vein is thank you, because the raw honesty of sharing that, when you think about that, when you open your eyes and then I think you said thank you, and then you're remembering what happened and we're going to have to move and all that, and that anxiety. I mean, when sharing that in that way to the people who showed up for you and show up for your recordings, I can just feel what that feels like to all the people listening.
Yeah.
It's an acknowledgement of our own anxieties and an acceptance of them too.
Yeah.
I can accept mine. You can accept yours. We aren't going to get rid of this all the way. This is what being human is. But the idea is to keep making that better choice. And the one thing that some do better or more consistently than others is to realize you're going to keep having them. Go ahead and have them. Look at them. And then go, okay, acknowledge, and then go back to 0 point as best you can, and just keep doing that. That's the whole thing. It's not like you're going to fix yourself one day and never have that again, because anybody who says they don't have that, well, they're either fooling themselves, or they're on some sort of drugs, or I don't even know, or they're not real, or I don't even really want to know who they are, because that's not human enough for me. This is what being human is we're navigating this stuff, and we're not hanging our anxiety on somebody else or some other used up program to solve every time.
Yeah, and anxiety arriving doesn't mean I'm going to have a day filled with anxiety. It's you standing in a train station, and every potential possible train is waiting there for you to take you to your desired destination, and you decide which one you step on. Am I going to ride the anxiety train to the end of this day, or am I going to go, yep, there's an option. Oh, look, a first class seat in the anxiety train, all for me. No, actually, I'm over here on the It's All Good train, and I don't care if I'm standing in someone's stinky armpit. I'd rather have standing room only on the packed train of It's All Good than have a first class seat on the anxiety train. So we just have to choose. We just have to decide. That's it. And I think the big thing that's happening right now is people are just for the first time cluing into the fact that they have a choice.
Yes.
We've been taught to be afraid of our emotions. We've been taught to, question those who are questioning authority, question those who are questioning you. Like, we've been pointed against ourselves in so many different ways. It's almost impossible to see a way forward. So that's when you go, well, then I'm not going to go forward. I'm going to go in, and then I will find the way forward. So yeah, I don't know. I'm ready for a life where I'm at the center as opposed to my practice or my business or my work. And I think that's what a lot of this has been, is I'm not living for my practice anymore. It's an extension of who and what I am, and I am the hub, and it is a spoke. And I just only started to see this in my own life the past couple of weeks of like, oh, that's really what it was. Like, of course, if I had put something else in the center of my life, when that thing fails to now be viable or perform in the way that it has, of course, I freak out because it's at the center of my life. But once I move it into its rightful place, then my whole life is no longer contingent upon the geometry of my practice. The geometry of my practice is contingent upon me.
And so many people do that with other people, right?
Yeah.
They put that
they put a president in the center. They put a galactic fleet in the center.
Yep.
They put an ascended master, a religious figure, another human. Like, we love to put all sorts of other things and people and substances and even ideas in the center of our life. And then we wonder why it's wonky. Well, because you're not in the middle.
Yeah.
That's why, because it's your life.
Mm-hmm.
So until I get the call, I'm showing up on YouTube every day at 10 a.m.
Well, I will try to be here as often as possible. Listen, in all of your travels, if you are coming through Kansas ever, would you please let me know?
Yeah, I will let you know next time. Where in Kansas are you again?
Near Wichita, but
Okay. Yeah.
on the east side, outside, 40 minutes
Yeah.
about. So yeah. You
Yeah.
you were in the southeast part of Kansas, as I
Yeah,
recall.
that's where my mom and my I mean that's where my mom grew up. She's still in
Mhm.
that town. And so yeah, I was hanging out there for several months last summer.
Mhm.
And I don't miss Kansas in the summer, that's for damn sure.
Yeah, well, yeah, we could
Yeah,
talk.
we
It's
joke
actually
about that summer heat in Kansas. We joke about that. Like, what pioneer in a heavy wool outfit in the middle of summer where it's 110 is going, yeah, this looks like a good place to stop and build a home. But it's the same thing with Wyoming, where in the middle of July it's freezing and snowing. Right. I remember several times growing up in Wyoming where it would snow in the middle of the summer. And what pioneer was like, oh, yeah, snow in July? Why not? Let's stay here.
I don't know. I had my relatives on my dad's side came over in the wagons and they lived in dugouts.
Yeah.
They went to a side of a hill with a shovel, and that's where they lived for a while. So
Yep.
sometimes when I feel weak, I think about my ancestors. I'm like, you came from that,
Yeah. They
girl.
didn't even have
So
air
maybe you can
conditioning.
get through this other thing that's in front of you right now. My great great grandmother really lived in dirt. They kind of built out the front with wood as they could. They had a door and two windows, but there wasn't any glass in the windows. They hung up to cover the openings from bugs and other things, oiled newspapers. Imagine.
Yeah, wax paper they would use too.
Yeah, because glass was too precious and hard to come by. I
Yeah.
mean, that's not that many generations ago,
No, it's
right?
not. It was so good to see you, my dear.
Amar, it was wonderful.
And we'll continue to stay connected. And if anything pops up, I'll let you know.
Please. Until then, thank you.
Lovely to see you, dear.
Lovely to see you too.
And we'll chat with you soon.
Okay, bye-bye.
Have a good day.